The following article was printed in the Evening Sun, Hanover, PA, on October the 31st, 2011. The stream gurgle fades with the waning afternoon light as you press deeper into the woods. A muddy shore gives way to thick grass heavy with rain. The path narrows, branches grasp and pull. Something moves and you turn with a start as squirrel bounds away through the brush. If it's March or April, we're not having this conversation. You're not wide-eyed and alone and half lost in a maze of trees and undergrowth. But this is the season for ghouls and for legends. It's the time of year editors send reporters out to the wild in search of fleeting phantoms. Thus, the Mothman creature that reportedly lives in the rural Adams County woods. And thus a soaked pair of shoes and pants legs abloom with sharp briars. Leaves whispering, dusk falling as the trail leads you deeper, farther from home. So how did it come to this? Here's the story. It's 1988, and a man living in the Baltimore area is set to meet an old friend from Adams County at a Boy Scout conference. The old friend mentions to the man, Lone Strickler, that scout troops on overnight trips at Camp Conwago have recently been packing up their tents early, leaving the grounds in a rush of spinning tires. They'd been waking in the night, the man said, to the sound of shrill crying. Screaming sounds out among the trees. Strickler, who had some experience in paranormal research, was intrigued. He agreed to accompany his friend and another man to investigate for a night. The group met at the Boy Scout camp off Dick's Dam Road north of Cross Keys on a Friday night. At around 7 p.m. they walked from the empty cabins about 500 yards into the woods, and then, following the Conwago Creek another 300 yards upstream, pitched their tents there along the shore. The talk was of sports and childhood camping trips, and night passed without incident. There was little mention of the something they thought could be out in the woods. But still, Strickler would say later, it felt as if he were being watched. Saturday dawned clear and cool, the sun warming a winding creek. The three men explored the area for most of the day, arriving back at camp again in the early evening. Conversation again covered football and food, the hours blurring and fading with the crackling campfire. Then, from somewhere in the shadows, a scream. Maybe an owl, one man said. A bobcat or a bird. But the three knew the local woods and the animals. And this wasn't close, they said. This was something different, the wail of a child. So the group grabbed stowed gear and crept away from the dying fire, out into the night. They searched for signs of tracks or disturbance, squinting to pick up movement among the trees, scanning the shadows under a slivered moon. Water murmured in the creek bed. Leaves split like eggshells underfoot. Breath streamed out in bursts of silence, white against the night. Strickler stopped. There it is, he whispered. Standing in the creek was a large, dark figure. It was tall as a man and stood upright. Its red eyes burned. In an eye blink, the creature leapt from the creek with a dizzying burst of wind and water, melting away into the sky. Its scream echoed over barren branches. That was more than 20 years ago, Lone Strickler said recently, and he can still see it, those eyes. And others have seen it in those woods, too, he said. Stories of sightings have come in from people he's never met. He's tracked them, and they still trickle in today. It's become known, Strickler said, as the Conwago Phantom. I have a Mothman story for you. I'm here in Charleston, but back in 2011, December the 15th, I was traveling down through Point Pleasant for work. I was just traveling through US Route 35. It was about 3:00-3:30 in the morning, icy conditions. The roads were snow-covered. Just your typical December early morning in West Virginia. I was going around this bend, and this big figure appeared in the roadway. I mean, I couldn't see anything beyond it. It looked to be, maybe, 8 to 10 feet tall. It looked to have wings. I just stopped in the middle of the road. I couldn't go anywhere. I froze. Not just my vehicle was stopped, but I froze, and this figure, whatever it was, just stood there in the middle of the road, and I was there for, I don't know, a minute or 2 minutes. I mean, I don't know how long, but it seemed like forever, and it finally darted off into the woods. And I sat there for another few minutes, trying to collect myself. I kept going around the bend, and about a mile up the road a tractor-trailer had jackknifed. There was no other vehicles around. It looked like it just happened. Luckily I was able to call emergency services and get them out on the scene. I just had this weird feeling about myself. Well, going back to 1967, December the 15th, there at the Silver Bridge, my great-grandfather actually went across the Silver Bridge like an hour or so before it collapsed, and my great-grandma, I never had a chance to meet my great-grandfather, but my great-grandmother said that, he said, after everything had happened, he had this weird feeling about himself going across that bridge, and as soon as he got to work, he worked at one of the factories out there at Point Pleasant, and he said that he just had this weird feeling about himself, and that's how I felt about what happened on December the 15th, 2011, so many years after the Silver Bridge collapse. My story happened off duty. I've seen plenty of weird stuff while on the road. Lots of it is people mostly. The weirdest one I saw was on my way back from a showdown in Virginia to Buffalo, NY. I had 4 guys with me and a truck full of speaker equipment. I was driving in par on the crazy 219/322/80 route, probably near Dubois/Clearfield. If you don't know the route, it's highways mixed with local country roads, but roads you're driving 65 on. And still in the middle of nowhere. It was late, maybe midnight or 1 a.m., and just me and another guy in the back seat were awake. I was driving with the houses on my right, woods on the left, in the middle of a heavily wooded area. There's no street lights, so it's pitch black except for my headlights. I saw this enormous figure swoop over the car about 10 feet up. I caught enough of it in the headlights that it looked like a bat, had a brown hairy body, but the wings and size were massive. Not like a bird, but like a giant bat or a flying dog, if the dog was a mastiff short hair. And the eyes were red. I saw it, and my brain registered it. And I looked around and couldn't see any more, because I was going fast enough. As I looked around, I just hear my cousin's voice really calmly from the back say, "I saw it too." I just got a chill and kept driving, but we didn't say anything more until we got home. One of my friends later told me that it was probably the Mothman, and I'd have to say that that could probably be the closest thing. I saw something that wasn't a bird, and my cousin saw it too. So now when I drive through the no man's land of Par, I keep an eye out for whatever the hell that thing was. This story was found on Phantoms and Monsters, Pulse of the Paranormal. It is a website dedicated to collecting and sharing a wide variety of encounters with the unexplained. Thank you so much for watching this video. Do not forget to subscribe to this channel and the following channels above. Until next time, stay weird.